Where I'm from, the highway is the only thing that really moves. Everything else, shops, schools, even the gossip grows and dies with each new generation. I kept saying that I'd sign up for welding classes or get in at the mine or slide into a state job if somebody retired or even died. But those jobs filled up with a backlog of applicants and I never even tried. I took a job at a service station. With the interstate coming through, our truck stop is another beacon of commerce, and of course it keeps my bills paid. I quickly learned how the lot works, trucks coming and going. Some spend the night, constant people in and out, and long hours. Lots of cleaning and bad attitudes, but all the time. Truck drivers are a pretty cool class of folks. Nights were steady, coffee refills, receipt tape, a bathroom key chained to a license plate. Fights, sure, shoplifters as well. Methy folks counting coins that barely cover the charge at the counter. I kept my head down and my drawer clean. I watched the lights drag shadows over the lanes and told myself this was just a temporary job. I also told myself a lot of things at the time. Being a service station worked 24 hours. In the 8 years that I've worked here, I've seen a lot of weirdness come and go. Tuesday nights were usually dull. A trickle of truckers, a couple locals grabbing smokes, or constant druggies lingering by the end of the building. Around midnight though, the doors start swinging nonstop. Same story from every guy walking in. Wreck on the interstate, cattle hauler jackknifed, lanes shut down for hours. "It's hell out there," one dude muttered, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. "All them cows, it smells like manure and diesel." They'll come in tired, hungry, and irritated, paid and then leave, paid and then leave. Pretty predictable stuff. While scanning the lot, I noticed this white tractor at Pump 7, blue stripes and no company logo, some kind of private contractor. It had been idling there for quite some time now, but I couldn't say how long. Didn't fuel up and didn't move. Lights off and nobody climbed out. Whatever. You see goofy parking all the time, guys falling asleep, getting in arguments on the phone, forget even where they are. I didn't think much until the 40-minute mark. Then an hour passed. Still no motion, just the rumble of the engine and a quiet glow inside that cab. Bearded guy walks in, and some truckers look like cavemen, and this guy was definitely one of them. You see that guy at Pump 7? I asked him. He didn't even look. Probably shacked up with a lizard. It happens. Dudes lose track of time when they got company, he said to me, behind a wink. I forced a laugh and then looked at the truck again to see if it was rocking. It just sat there, totally still. At 1 a.m. the computer chirped, card auto canceled. It said the failure had come from Pump 7, where the truck was sitting. I glanced up and the passenger window of the white cab was rolled down a little bit. Fingertips clawed at the gap. A woman's face smashed against the opening, frantic. She was screaming for help. Everything in my body went cold. Before I even processed it, the driver's door flew open. A man jumped down and ran to the other side, yanked himself back up on the step, and shoved her back inside the cab. Beard guy froze mid-chew. He was sitting in our little diner area, eating something out of the microwave. "What the f—" Another trucker yelled outside. Hey, get your hands off her." The second woman then appeared behind the first, smaller, sporting a black eye. She tried to wedge her arms out, but the first girl kind of got in her way. They looked like they've been fighting to get out of there forever now. I grabbed the phone and dialed the police.
911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, I'm at the truck stop, exit 112 at the pumps. White semi with blue stripes, 2 women trying to escape the cab. The guy driving the truck is forcing them back inside. My voice actually sounded weirdly calm as I spoke to him.
Units en route,
Dispatcher said.
Do not intervene. Does he appear armed?
I don't think so, not from what I can see.
Are you with him?
No, I'm inside the station, but the parking lot is full, I explained. It was too late though. Truckers were already storming toward the rig, flip-flops slapping, boots pounding. Truckers are this uniquely mixed bunch. Somebody shouted that, "We see you, asshole." The driver jumped down, hands up, trying to look completely harmless. "They're my girlfriends," he said calmly. "We partied a little hard. They're tweaking. We're all good here." Both women practically screamed in sync. "We're not with him. He took us. He won't stop the fucking truck." Hearing it out loud made my hair stand on edge. I threw the front door open and screamed that the police are coming. He looked at me, not scared, not angry, calculating his next move, deciding if he had enough time to get the hell out of here before he was done for. He bolted. I couldn't believe it. He hopped in the cab and slammed the door, the girls continuing to push themselves out that sliver of window. Another trucker shouted to box him in. 3 rigs moved instantly. Air brakes hissed like steam valves. Diesels roared up as they tried to get in place before he could get rolling. They hemmed him in, front and back, probably a good 60 tons of steel, corralling him inside the pumps. That white truck jerked forward, hit a bumper and backed up, and then metal screeched. The cab rocked violently and those girls never stopped screaming. Inside it was pure chaos. The passenger door burst open and the smaller girl spilled out, hitting the pavement hard. The bigger one half jumped and half fell on top of her, both of them scraped to bleeding. They could hardly even hobble to their feet after the impact. I held open the door and yelled at them to get inside. They slowly limped toward me, one dragging her leg that was turning purple at the ankle. They reeked of sweat, beer, and body odor. The taller one had duct tape stuck to her arm. Her hair was matted. The smaller one's ankle was definitely broken. "He locked the doors. He took the handles off," she said. "No windows inside. He wouldn't let us out." The other girl whispered, "He drugged us." I guided them behind the counter and they curled up and sobbed against the tile. They were covered in all kinds of cuts and bruises, even cigarette burns. Inside the cab, the driver was hammering the horn, screaming for everybody to move. Through the windshield, he sat rigid, gripping the wheel, staring straight ahead. His jaw was grinding, staring out at 24 furious truckers. "Jesus Christ," beard guy said beside me. "That dude's going to prison." The red and blue lights finally hit the far end of the lot, and sirens cut through the air. 2 deputies and a state trooper had all rolled up, and all the truckers started waving them in. They piled out and approached the truck from all sides. "Driver," the trooper called out, voice level. "My name's Officer Collins. Let's talk about this." No movement. "Let's be clear. You're obviously not going anywhere," Collins said. "Let's not make this any worse than it already is." All kinds of truckers stood behind engines, arms crossed, ready to drag that guy out if he didn't comply. Silent, united, and scarily calm. Finally, the driver reached over, unlocked the passenger door, and pushed it open just a crack. He didn't appear to be looking at anybody, just kind of staring at the ground. That little smile came back as he swung his feet out. Collins nodded once to his partner. "We take him alive if he comes out," he murmured. "But if he tries to move that truck, open fire. Tires first, windshield second." The man placed both hands flat on the wheel, and I remember the entire parking lot braced for movement. He didn't move though after that. Collins called out for more orders, but the guy kept acting like he couldn't hear him. Who knows? Maybe he couldn't. The cops talked back and forth, but I couldn't quite make out the words. They seemed like they were gonna make some kind of move. Collins and the other took 4, maybe 5 steps, and then shit hit the fan. Without warning, he revved up and shifted into gear. The whole awning shook. The deputies raised their weapons, shouting for him to kill the engine. He didn't. He stared forward, one hand on the wheel, the other on the shifter. "Don't do it," Collins said. "You got nowhere to go." The truck rolled forward and tagged both rigs, blocking his path. It brushed both bumpers enough to fold them a bit, but the trucks held firm. The cops then took an angle and told everybody to back up, move to one side, and they dumped a few rounds into both front tires, nailing every shot. I could see the panic in the driver when they started shooting. He threw his hands up, kicked the door open, and surrendered the second he hit the pavement. The deputies rushed him, pressing his face into the concrete, and cuffed him. He didn't fight and didn't really speak. When they opened up the trailer, there was nothing inside. No cargo, no refrigeration, just a strip shell of metal. One of the deputies gagged, however, when he saw the mattress duct taped at the corners, crusty and stained. They towed the rig away a full 24 hours later. There's a wrecker nearby that could handle the payload. It was a trip to watch it all for so long. Those girls were taken to the hospital, and they didn't come back for their things that we found in the parking lot. I'll think about that night for the rest of my life. How long it had been before anybody even noticed, and how many stops had it made before it got to me. Hey everyone, Rich here. If the name sounds familiar, it's because this is my second submission to Booze and Booze. For those who don't know me yet, my fiancée Joanne, Joe for short, and I run a towing and automotive transport company out of New York State. We specialize in exotic and luxury vehicles, the kind of stuff that needs white glove treatment, and because of that, we're on the road constantly, hauling cars all across the country. We don't run this big tractor trailer. I pull a 38-foot enclosed car hauler with one of my Rams, usually the 3500 or 5500. It's the perfect setup for what we do, and it was that work that brought us somehow to Jackson, Wyoming, and to one of the strangest experiences we've ever had. It started early one cool morning in August. We were leaving our hotel in Sturgis, South Dakota, around 6 a.m. I think. The sun was just starting to rise, throwing this orange glow across the parking lot. Joe was already loading our bags, while I did our usual pre-trip inspection. "Where are we heading to now?" she asked me. Jackson, Wyoming," I said, standing up from checking the tires. "Should be there by 5, depending on traffic through the park." I kissed her on the forehead, opened up the passenger door, and we hit the road. The morning drive was nice and peaceful, the kind of calm you get before the day actually starts. We rolled through the miles of open country, the hum of tires filling up the cab. Around 11, we stopped in Casper for some fuel, snacks, and a quick bathroom break. Nothing strange, nothing unusual, just another day on the road. By 11:35, we were back to it, the truck humming westward toward the Tetons. By 4 that afternoon, we were driving through the Grand Teton National Park. And I gotta say, if you've never been there, go. It's unreal. The mountains look like something out of another world, massive, ancient, and completely humbling. We were cruising along US 26 when we saw a sign for a pull-off, the Albright View Overlook. Joe looked over at me and said, "We gotta stop." I laughed and agreed, slowed down, and turned in. And that's when things, well, got weird. There was only one other vehicle there, this green Subaru Outback. The hatch was open. An older woman sat in the back, enjoying a snack. She gave us this friendly smile as we got out. It was quiet, peaceful. We started walking toward the Overlook's information board when I noticed 2 kids, maybe in their early teens, just standing there. They were wearing these thick winter jackets, snow pants, and boots. I remember thinking to myself, gotta be burning up. It was at least 85 degrees out. Joe chuckled and said, "They look like they're ready to go skiing." We took some photos, admired the view, but I couldn't shake this strange feeling, that prickly sensation that somebody was watching you. I glanced back over at the information board, and those 2 kids were staring right at us, not moving, not blinking, just staring. Joe squeezed my hand. "Why are they looking at us like that?" I didn't answer her because I didn't have an answer. We both turned our heads for just a brief moment, and when we looked back, they were gone, vanished. Joe quickly scanned the area. Where are they?" "I don't know," I said, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. We looked around, but the only vehicles that were out there was that Subaru. The ground was gravel. We would have heard them walk away when they did. They were just gone. We walked over to that woman sitting in her car. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said. "Did you happen to see those 2 boys by that sign? Early teens, bundled up like it's winter?" She stared at us for a moment before answering. "Honey, what boys are you talking about?" she asked me. Joe frowned. There were 2 boys just here a minute ago. The woman shook her head. No, there's been nobody here but you and me for at least a half an hour. That's when that first chill went down my spine. I walked over back to the truck and checked the trailer. Nothing, just the car that we were hauling. I looked under the truck, inside the tonneau cover. Nothing. We went back to the sign and that's when we noticed it. 2 sets of boot prints, right where those boys had been standing. I barely had any time to whisper, "What the hell?" before Joe had grabbed my hand. Did you hear that giggling? I asked her. She didn't answer me, just whispered, "Time to go." We hustled back to the truck, climbed in, and I started the engine. As I turned back onto US 26, I glanced over in the side mirror and my stomach dropped. There they were, standing in the exact spot where our truck had been parked, just watching. I floored it. As we pulled back out onto the highway, I glanced at the dashboard clock, 5:30 p.m. We'd been there for over an hour. It felt like it was only 20 minutes. We reached our Airbnb, I'd say around 6:30. None of us really saying much that night. We unpacked, sat in silence, and tried to make sense of it all. Sleep did not come easy. Every sound, every creak, every gust of wind had both of us on edge. I'm not somebody who jumps to the paranormal. I like to think I'm a pretty rational guy, but what we saw out there, what both of us saw, I can't explain it. 2 kids, dressed for winter in the middle of a Wyoming summer, vanishing without a sound, only to reappear when we were leaving. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe some kind of trick of the mind, or maybe those mountains hold a lot more than just natural beauty. Whatever it was, it's stuck with us ever since. So if you ever find yourself driving through Grand Teton National Park and you see a sign for the Albright View Overlook, just keep driving. Stay safe out there and stay vigilant. I've worked at the Sagebrush on and off for a long time now. Our place is attached to this motor court and hotel, 11 rooms, 2 ice machines, and a neon vacancy sign that I've never seen turned off. Folks drift in from all parts of the country, truckers mostly. We know each other by orders and habits, how much ice cream, how burnt they like their bacon, whether they tip in cash or quarters, or if they tip at all. I like that simple grind. I kept my thoughts contained. Rent, groceries, a day off to walk the creek. No big dreams to sour. The boss let me trade shifts when my sister needed a ride to the clinic. I felt safe living out there, out of the way. I liked being in control of what happened around me. Regulars gave me stories from the city and beyond, some good and some completely made up. I learned to listen without inviting trouble. Smile, pour, move on. The road, the cities, it'll live in you if you allow it to. I keep all that stuff at arm's length. That was until Johnny started coming by every few weeks and everything pretty much changed for me. Johnny was not like the others. Younger, clean, fresh-faced, jaw that you could slice bread on. The first night that he slid into a booth, he ordered a tea with a lemon and a BLT no mayo and talked like he'd seen it all. Stories about busted docks, cheap motel rooms, bad dispatchers. Then about his girlfriend Mel. "She's either crazy in love or just crazy," he said, grinning. "Throws plates and then kisses after. Keeps it nice and exciting for me." He had this way of stirring his coffee and smiling that just had me on the hook. I laughed at every joke. He had this way about him, charming, restless, and a spark between the eyes. Over the next few months, he rolled in every few weeks, sometimes leaving me a matchbook or a chipped keychain from some forgotten town. I pinned them to the corkboard by the register, like these little relics from faraway lands. Then he changed. One night he came in thin as a rail, eyes super hollow, hands trembling when he held the menu. I brought him his tea without even asking. "You okay?" I asked. "Peachy," he said. "Mel's gone, took the cat, maybe even my sanity with her. He smiled, but I could see he was upset. He smoked outside until closing, and when he hugged me goodbye, he smelled like he hadn't showered in quite some time. I tried not to think about it. Guys like Johnny lived hard and kept to themselves, so it felt normal. He didn't show up again for 6 weeks. Then, one Wednesday afternoon, the bell above the door jingled and there he was again, looking lean but lit up, like he plugged himself into a power line. "Money's tight," he said, "but women are everywhere." He tugged his collar down, showing bruises on his neck. Guess I still got it. He ordered a whiskey with his breakfast, which was really out of character for him. But it became his new routine, booze before noon, jokes in poor taste, just too much energy buzzing underneath his skin. I'd see him pacing outside the diner at night, talking to himself. "Can't sleep?" I asked him once during closing. Sleep's for people who dream," he said. "I just need some action." The last night, he came in just before closing, clothes all wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. "Burger rare," he said. "Make it plain, no other bullshit." His fingers started drumming the table, tap, 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 tap. It sounded like a machine gun. "Hey, you look rough," I said to him. He grinned at me. "You ever feel like your skin's 2 sizes too small, or maybe your skull? Feels like my brain's coming out of my ears." No, I responded back. "Can't say I have." "Well, I do," he said, scratching at his neck until he drew blood. "Means I'm about to grow into something new, like a butterfly." The cook had already shut down the grill, but I asked him to fire it up one last time. Johnny watched me the whole time, eyes following my hands. When I set the plate in front of him, he leaned close and sniffed it like a dog. "Smells like God," he said to me. "What?" I asked. He smiled again. You know what I mean." He ate really slow, chewing it like he didn't even trust it. The diner was empty now, except for him, myself, the cook, and the dishwasher. I resumed knocking out my closing duties while I watched Johnny eat. When he finally stood, he left cash under the ketchup bottle, stretching his arms. "Think I'll walk the strip," he said. "Might even grab a room. You want me to call the desk?" He winked at me. I can handle it." I locked up after him, peeking through the blinds. He wandered from bar to bar, cigarette smoke ghosting around his head. When he stepped underneath the motel sign, the moths were swirling around him like static. It was a really creepy sight to see. He raised 2 fingers in his brow in this mock salute toward the diner window, and I stepped back before he could actually catch me watching him. On my walk home, when I passed the motor court, room 6 had its curtain open a crack. The light was flickering inside like a TV left on mute. I saw Johnny's shadow moving within, almost like he was rearranging the furniture or something. I tried to say to myself, to mind my own business. He'd be gone by morning. It's Johnny, after all. I ended up opening early the next day, pale sun over the desert, rigs humming low in the distance. The lot was mostly empty except for one idling semi out near the pumps. When I unlocked the door, Johnny came in right behind me, same clothes, same grin, a cigarette tucked behind his ear. There was crusted streaks of blood marked around his collar. Morning," I said. "Morning, sunshine." He flashed a smile and a wink. "Thought I'd beat the rush." There isn't one." He smiled. "Well, then I guess I'm a winner." As I poured his coffee, I noticed his knuckles were torn open, dried blood caught in the cracks. When he reached for the sugar, his hands trembled. Still, his voice seemed calm and overly confident. I'd seen tired, I'd seen drunk, but this was something else entirely. It made me super nervous. Outside, the day was still gray when the first scream came, a woman's voice, and it didn't let up. Then more shouts and running footsteps. Johnny wasn't moving. "Well, I wonder what that's about," I asked out loud. He glanced toward the window. "Guess we'll find out." A random man then stumbled through the door, face white. "Call the cops. Room 6, there's a woman." He couldn't get the rest out. My stomach turned cold and I glanced over at Johnny. He was stirring his coffee, slow circles, watching the liquid swirl around. "They're early," he said. "Guess breakfast will have to wait." Sirens then rose up from the highway before I could even say another word. I stood frozen behind the counter, no idea what to do next. Johnny then took the cigarette from behind his ear and just fired it up. 2 cruisers tore into the lot. Officers jumped out, guns drawn. "What the hell happened?" one of them shouted. An officer spoke to everybody outside, who all turned and collectively pointed into the diner, right at Johnny. The officer slowly entered, approaching his table and started asking him questions. When he wouldn't answer, they started giving him commands. Johnny didn't even look up. Can't a man just enjoy some breakfast? "There's a dead woman next door, so you'll be taking a trip with us this morning. No breakfast." He sighed, pushed his cup away, and raised up his hands. Guess not. They cuffed him and led him outside. Police were everywhere. The cook stepped out of the kitchen and froze right next to me. He started talking with one of the officers, somebody he knew apparently. "What happened? What'd he do?" "There's a girl next door. The whole room is covered in blood and it's rented out to him, and he seems completely out of it, not even sure he knows what he did." "But you think that he did it?" The officer nodded. "She's gone. Room 6. I think I knew her. Stab wounds and strangulation. Local girl." Johnny laughed. "She wanted me to stay," he said. "She'll be waiting for me." They dragged him outside and he didn't resist, just turned his head to face me as they shoved him into the car, his eyes catching mine. "Told you I'd handle it." The door then slammed and the cruiser took him away. That motel shut down for a week. Reporters came, cameras and everything. Locals whispering about the trucker who sat at the counter drinking coffee while a girl bled out next door. We were pretty infamous for a while. People still stop by sometimes, wanting to hear it directly from me. The calmness, the smile, the way he waited like nothing had happened. I tell them I don't remember. What sticks with me though isn't the blood or the noise. It's his eyes on that last morning, clear, almost peaceful, like he finally reached the end of whatever road he'd been driving all along. I just thank God he didn't do anything to me. I've driven every flavor of weather the lower 48 can throw at you. Mostly it's routine. Keep the logbook accurate, keep the wheels pressurized, and drink coffee as often as you can. That's the job. There really isn't a whole lot to worry about. But if it's always routine, I wouldn't have a story to share with you. And my story is not about a wreck, not the tweakers in the rest area, not the idiot who tried to run me off the road in Colorado. This was just a short hop across the state line. Nothing heroic. Figured I'd just push straight through, shave the clock, unload at sunup, and be home before the dog tore up my couch cushions. It was darker outside than an armpit. The sky looked like somebody shut it off at the breaker. The headlights cut a tunnel, and the tunnel kept going. Mile markers winked at me, then disappeared, keeping in line. No moon, no town glow, just empty miles in front of me. I kept the cruise a notch under, hands light on the wheel, and the cab heater kept me nice and comfy. I had a thermos full of coffee and a stale bear claw that I was picking at. "Here's the money, baby," I said out loud. I talked to myself. I keep the ghosts off the passenger seat. 2 lanes turned to 4, then back to 2. The CB was dead air. So was the phone, no bars. That tends to happen out here. As long as my GPS was working, I felt literally no stress. I crossed the river and then kept grooving. I remembered everything going really smoothly. And then fog. Not the light stuff that hangs in ditches, a wall. I saw it and thought it was a blank billboard. It rolled out from the river and swallowed up the highway. The first breath of it was wet and frigid, and the world then narrowed to a white room with 2 lanes painted on the floor. Fog sucks. There's no quick way to drive through it, so if driving is your job, you just gotta deal. I dropped to 20 miles an hour and kept crawling. The fog took the sound out of everything. The engine felt padded. The line lanes faded and then reappeared. I kept my left tires kissing the paint. Nothing oncoming and nobody behind me, just me and the white. The GPS guided me along. It said I had 6 or 7 hours left. I took a sip of coffee and settled in. Then the screen flickered. The arrow spun and then repositioned itself. The blue line dissolved and then reknit somewhere else. "Oh, don't start that shit," I said out loud. It chimed back as if in response to me. A new route then flashed. Exit in 0.3 miles. "What? There is no exit," I said. "I know this stretch. 2 lanes, no ramps, no feeders." The GPS didn't care though. Exit in 0.2 miles. The road ahead looked the same though, a wide chute with guardrail ghosts on either side. I continued rolling forward, and a break opened up on the right. Not a ramp, a dirt cut narrow as a driveway, shouldered by brush. The fog seemed to part around it, and the GPS chirped, "Turn right." "This is a bad idea," I said, my hand already hitting the signal. You get kinda used to trusting the box. It knows way stations, closures, the odd county route that dispatchers swear by. So I eased in, trailer bumping when the pavement let go. No dust came to drift in the wet, heavy air. My GPS arrival time then shifted. It went from 7 hours to 17 minutes. The track ran straight, then bent in this lazy S. Pines leaned overhead and the fog thickened around me. Road signs? None. Fence lines? None. Just a suggestion of fields sliding by, the land rising and falling. The GPS continued to lose its mind. Arrival in 1 mile, arrival in 9.8 miles, arrival in 200 feet. The arrow spun like a top. "Oh my God, just fucking pick one," I said. I kept rolling because stopping felt like a worse idea to me. Turning around 60 feet a truck ain't easy, and I don't do it for just any reason. But the road continued to grow narrower. I tried the radio, static like popping grease. I tried my phone. No service, of course, and no response from anybody. The GPS then chimed at me. "Left turn ahead." It wasn't even much of a road, so much as a pale scar through brush and young trees. I could do it if I was careful, I guess, so I cut the wheel. The tractor wobbled and the trail jostled. Tires clawed out for something solid. For a second, I felt the rig go weightless, but found the road again, and we straightened out. The fog then thinned unbelievably as I rolled into this clearing. Open space, knee-high grass, a ring of trees off in the dark. Across from me, a house looked back at me. Paint peeled to gray, roof sagging, porch slumped. No light. No other road beyond the one that I'd just taken. The GPS then sang to me, "You have arrived." For a brief moment, I just sat there, engine idling, fog curling off the hood. My hands hadn't left the wheel. The GPS glowed at me, sickly blue, with the words plain as day, "You have arrived." No address, no town name, just that creepy fucking house. Across the clearing, that building leaned in on itself. It had to be abandoned. Shingles missing, chimney cracked halfway down. The windows were dark. No tire tracks but mine either, no mailbox or any indication of anybody ever living there, at least recently. "The hell with this," I muttered to myself and started punching the screen, trying to backtrack that route. The display twitched, refusing to load, then ding, the arrival chime again, and the voice softly telling me that I've reached my destination. At that same second, a light snapped on in the house. It wasn't bright, just this bare bulb glow, but it spilled across the porch like something had woken up, or someone. Through the haze, I saw shadows slide past the windows. My chest felt like it had shrunk in 2 sizes. The front door creaked open an inch, paused, and then eased shut again. I stared, my breath fogging up the glass. I did it again, open, close, like somebody testing it. Then it flew open so hard it slammed against the siding of the house. Something stepped out, just a shape at first, tall and broad. It walked into the light and then stopped halfway down the porch steps. I could see the outline of its arms hanging by its side. Then it lifted one hand and waved, slow and side to side, like a Miss America contestant. I almost screamed. I dropped it into reverse, nearly jackknifing the trailer before finally finding the gear. The tire spun and then caught. I yanked it around, the whole rig shaking, trailer lights cutting through the fog. When I finally hit pavement again, I damn near cried. I kept it at 60 until the fog thinned once more, then 70, then 80. Didn't stop until I finally saw a rest stop sign. I parked under a sodium light and just sat there until dawn broke. I checked my GPS again. Perfect route now, clean line, no detours, like it never happened. What was supposed to be this simple route ended up taking me almost twice as long as it should have. 2 days later, I looked it up on Google Maps. Same highway, same mile markers, but no side road, no clearing, just forest. Zoom in and you could see this faint track ending at a rusted gate, but beyond that, nothing but trees. Was it my imagination? Did Google just glitch out and use some dated photos on their map system? I don't know. I've heard trucker stories my whole life, all kinds of weirdness. So I guess what happened to me is just another tale on top of the dog pile.